Pretty cool. What's up, everybody?
Welcome to Rockin' Pod
Yeah.
2025.
Rockin' Pod weekend here in Nashville for the year 2025. As you can see, we are not in our
Normal habitat.
in our normal habitat. We are actually here at the Nashville Fairgrounds in Nashville, Tennessee. We are technically pre-show for the Rockin' Pod weekend here. So this is kind of this is going to be a little bit of a preview of coming attractions here. Joining us here in just a few minutes. I mean, pretty damn good way to start off the weekend, wouldn't you say?
I would say so.
I mean, as far as
an innovator of metal in general, Brian Slagel has been a force in metal for 40 plus years. So
yeah, I mean,
some of the biggest bands in the world. So
a lot of the biggest bands in the world got their start because of Metal Blade Records, and it's because of Brian. So I mean, there's a pretty decent possibility. Definitely better than 50-50 if it weren't for Brian. I mean, a lot of us wouldn't be the metalheads that we are, and there's probably some bands that may not even be around. Hell, I mean, if you don't know, for those who don't, Brian gave Metallica their start.
That's right. Yep.
I mean, he put Metallica on his Metal Massacre compilation back in 1982, and that was Metallica's first commercial, their first commercial release. So I mean, Brian got the Metallica ball rolling, good, bad, or otherwise, however you feel about Metallica. Because Jason and I know one person in particular who really doesn't care for Metallica, and that's fine. That's fine. I mean, obviously everyone's allowed to feel the way they want to feel about a band, but without Brian Slagel, I mean, heavy metal would definitely look a lot different.
I would
doubt
think
about
so,
that. Heavy metal would definitely be a lot different without Brian. So
I mean, what's so ironic about it is also Rat was featured on that compilation, which if we know the stories of that, Metallica opened for Rat in a skating rink. So to have them both on the compilation record is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
let's see who. I 100% honestly can't remember. Let's see. I can't even remember who. I don't need to print anything. I can't even remember who all was on that.
Oh, it was. I got it right here. It's Black and Blue, Malice, Avatar, Sirith, Ungol, Bitch. I mean, there's a lot of bands on there.
I mean, so came out in 1992. I mean, you got Cold Day in Hell by Steeler, Captive of Light by Malice, Octave by Avatar, not the current Avatar. Not the current Avatar. Hell, shit, those guys were.
I don't think they came around until 2010s.
No. So I mean, those guys would have just been children at the time.
Yeah.
Dead of the Night by Demon Flight, Kick You Down by Malice, Live for the Whip by Bitch, Tell the World by Rat, Death of the Sun by Sirith Ungol, Fighting Backwards by Pandemonium, Hit the Lights by Metallica. So that was the very first Metal Massacre compilation that Brian put out in 1982. And I mean, there were obviously, I don't even remember how many there were. I know there was like 5 or 6 of them. So, but that's how it all got started for Brian and for Metallica. So I mean, talk about to use some of Jason's wrestling parlance. That's coming off the top ropes right away. If that's your first compilation. So that's how it all started. Let me grab him a chair. Yeah.
Cool, sir. It's an honor, man.
Well, thanks, man. Thank you so much. Like your records.
Thank you.
They'll be better next time.
9 years off playoffs.
Yeah, they'll be better next time. Oh, man, that Maiden sticker is awesome.
Yeah, I got stickers everywhere, man. So.
I like it.
Almost running out of room to put stickers on things.
Right. Yeah. You need me to move around here?
No, you're good. No.
We'll cater to you, man.
That's right. Absolutely.
You're the guest.
Yeah.
Brian Slagel.
Yeah. I mean, first off, Brian, thank you for doing this on Friday.
Yeah, man, no problem. I appreciate you having me. That's all good.
Yes.
Are you kidding? We saw your name on the potential interview list. Hell, you may have been the first one we checked. So.
Awesome.
I mean, we grew up in that era.
Yeah.
So, I mean, growing up on Metal Blade Records and having, the guy that growing up on Metal Blade Records built it. So it's
from the ground up.
Yeah. So it's kind of an honor. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think this probably goes up there with Ricky Rackman from a couple of years ago.
Yeah. No, I mean.
Yeah, Ricky is a great dude. Like, he wasn't even scheduled to come over and talk to us, so it was pretty cool of him to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so kind of going back, I know a lot of people may not know the history of Metal Blade, but we certainly know a lot about Metal Blade. Without Metal Blade, we may not have Metallica. So I mean,
we may not even have a show at this point.
Well, that's true. So, I mean, we have a lot of fans that were on that label. So to kind of walk us through like I think the thing that I was kind of more interested in was when you guys kind of like did a little merger with WEA or whatever. That kind of
the Warner's. I was just talking about that. So yeah, we had lost in the '80s. We had lost, I think, 24 bands through the major labels. So at that point, and most of them didn't do nearly as well as they should have. So we got to the point like we should probably just align with the major labels so we could keep the bands. So we started talking to everybody, and Warner Brothers made the most sense because they were in Los Angeles. At the point when we joined them, they were still an independent company, owned by a big corporation, and it was Paul Austin and Lenny Warner, these music business legends that brought me in and brought us in. And yeah, we went there, and for a while it was working really well. And then it got bought by Time Inc. They became a big corporate entity, and we tried to put on a Guar record, and they said you have to take these 2 songs off because it doesn't match with the corporate media mentality. And I'm not taking anything off of any band. I'm not taking any band what they can say.
Yeah, see, that's awesome.
So I had to go to Warner's and Noel and Lenny, and they were amazing. They go, we don't like this any more than you. I said, I can't be here if this is the way this is going to be. Right. So they're very nice to let us go. We all amicable, and we had a nice 4 years there. But I definitely learned that I don't want to be in the corporate world anymore.
Right.
Just went through that myself. So.
Yeah, we stayed independent the whole time. I mean, we're distributed by Sony Orchard, so we do have the major distribution, but all of us stuff is all just independent.
Nice. So another thing was, I guess, Ice-T probably didn't help the matters any when he came up.
No, my good buddy Ice-T. Well, that was really where it all started. So Ice-T put out that song "Cop Killer," which I loved. I love anybody that's going to push the boundaries. And Ice is awesome. He's a huge metal fan.
Yeah.
So they put that out. So, like I said, we were doing a Guar record, and I didn't know, what was going on or anything. I was just making music to make music, and I knew there was a corporation there, but it didn't dawn on me that. And obviously, the Cop Killer thing got a lot of bad publicity from Warner's. People, mainstream people are freaking out about it. So we made this Guar record, and one of the songs of the Guar record is about them killing babies, which Guar likes to push the envelope. That was the one song they said, you got to take this off. And I said, no, that's not going to happen. That stemmed from Ice-T's thing, where that came up, and then all of a sudden they're literally were lawyers who went through every single release that was coming through the WEA, Warner Electric Atlantic label distribution, and they had to look at every single thing to see if it met with the corporate whatever Warner's had. So yeah, that was.
God, you talk about micromanaging. Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, that was ugly. But to their credit, they let us go, and it was all amicable. The Goo Goo Dolls stayed with the Warners and sold a lot of records. So
probably dodged a bullet.
So the thing is, that's kind of like one of those what if scenarios. If Goo Goo Dolls didn't do that, would they be as popular as they are now? Because you kind of don't know because they changed their whole music style, correct?
No, what happened was, this is the funniest thing. So we were Goo Goo Dolls for a long time. People always say, Goo Goo Dolls, we're on metal. Well, we had a punk label where we had like DOC and DRI and the Mentors, and a whole bunch of punk bands. And the Goo Goo Dolls, we found them were a punk band from Buffalo. They actually opened for Cannibal Corpse a couple of times.
Oh wow, that's
And
crazy.
so we signed them because the early stuff, like Johnny sang half and the bass player Robbie sang half. It's very punk rock. They're really cool guys, really fun band. And they're kind of morphing into more mainstream-ish, but still rock, still hard rock. So we get to A Boy Named Goo, the big record, and they had this acoustic song called Name. And Johnny asked me, he said, I have this song, it doesn't really fit the rest of the record, but I just kind of put it together, it's just me on acoustic guitar. Like, what do you think? I said, it's a good song, just put it on the record. Not ever thinking in a million years that was a song. And we were actually, Warner's and us were working a different song all the way down. It was more a rock song. That sounds like Foo Fighters.
Yeah, it was on the Twister soundtrack.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, KRLQ in LA, which is the big radio station, KRLQ in LA, which is the big, whatever he touched turned gold. And one night he put Name on, and one night he put Name on the radio, and it went insanely crazy. 3 days later, all of a sudden, the song is all over the place, and it literally exploded almost overnight, and they became this big, huge band because of that one song. That wasn't really like anything else that they did. It got in their head. Like, I guess we got to write more songs like that.
Right? Yeah.
I gotcha. It makes sense.
It's like discovering penicillin. It's like, shit, we did it on accident.
Right. So the other thing I was wanting to ask you was, do you, since you're talking about the labels, do you think that most labels now give a little bit more freedom to the artists than they used to? Because I feel like we talked to a lot of bands that are, come up in the 80s. A lot of bands keep reciprocating that, we kind of got held down after the first record. And they're kind of like, oh, we're changing this and changing that.
If you're on an independent label, a lot of these independent labels are owned by big corporations, but it's still independent labels. I think you're pretty free to do whatever you want. If you're on a major label, a lot of times
they're still like that.
Yeah, I think that I never understood that the major labels did. They would sign a band. It doesn't matter what. They'd sign a band, and the first thing they would do was like, "Oh, you need to change the style of music. You do this, do that." Well, why would you sign a band and then change what they do? Didn't you sign it because of
right?
Exactly.
We were talking about very
yeah. It made no sense. It still doesn't make any sense to me. It happens all the time.
We were talking about that very thing on the way up, but we were talking about it as it relates to our show. But we actually talked to Nige Rocket of Onslaught a couple weeks ago, and talking. I mean, they've been around since 1982, so just as long. And he was talking because they had like a 19-year hiatus between their first 3 albums and like these last 4, and we were trying to get some insight as to how that came about and like why was it so long. I mean, they went through the same thing. I mean, they got signed and went in and they tried to completely 180 their entire style, and they went along with it because they were young at the time, and I guess we're screwed because we got a contract. And then they got to the end, and like Nige was like, I'm just done with the music. He was like so cynical and so jaded by the whole process that it wasn't until 2006 or 2005 or 6 the drummers kind of got them all back together. It's like, why don't we give this another go? And like, so I mean, it was that long, and Nige was like, I'm just gonna get out away from this shit completely.
Yeah,
he felt so burned by the whole thing.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of musicians, a lot of bands that left other situations and came to us, and they're telling us what it was like somewhere else. I'm like, really? That makes no sense to me. We don't get to tell bands do whatever you want.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you what style of music or anything like that. You do what you do.
Yeah, especially like you just said. If you go to if you went to a concert and you're like, I like this. This sounds great. You bring them in, they're like, yeah, that's what attracted to us. Well, let's try this. I mean, how are you gonna completely pivot?
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: every single major band, whether it's Metallica, Alice in Chains, pick a huge big band. Who do they write music for? Themselves.
Exactly.
They don't listen to anybody else. They don't. And I told this band all the time: don't listen to your spouse. Don't listen to your family. Don't listen to the record company. Don't listen to your lawyer, your manager. Make the music you guys want to hear and make. And if it's great, it's good fun. If it's not, well. But it starts getting into people's heads. And I've seen this before. Last word you shouldn't do this.
That also. It's almost like that really should be rule number one. So I mean, it's a good thing that's probably one of the first things you advise, because that really needs to be it. I mean, if you're writing it, you're recording it, and when you're done and you feel it, if then put it out. I mean, the especially this day and age. I mean, I'm sure you're still seeing it now, but I mean, you'll know right away if it hits or misses. But at the end of the day, if you're happy with it, then that's really what matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I back to Mo Austin a little bit. I remember we put out, I forget what we put out some record that didn't do nearly as well as I thought it was. I was really bummed out about it. He said you never do anything bad by putting out good music. Like whether it's popular or not is another thing, but if you feel it's good and you're putting it out in the world, then that's good. It's not up to you, and other people like it. So
exactly. Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is too is it may not hit at the time, but the cool thing is like jumping forward from when Metal Blade started to now, there are things that when it first comes out it may not catch on right away, but you never know where something might show up and then it might gain traction. I mean, the first thing I think of is the Stranger Things thing with Master of Puppets, obviously. For people like us, it's like we've been listening to that album for like 30 years. Came out in 1986. Where the hell have you been? But you never know where something is going to show up, and then it catches, and then it takes off. Because what was the other running up? I don't.
Yeah, something wrong with that.
I never even heard of. I can't remember her name. I can't even remember her name. Right?
Or no, that was from Last of Us.
No, it was from Stranger Things. But there was another song that was in that show that got real big because of the show. I hadn't heard of the artist before then, and like I can't even remember her name now. I do feel bad about that, but you never know. She got a huge boost just because that song showed up in a pop culture phenomenon as far as a television show. So, like you said, I mean, if you like it, put it out. Even if it doesn't hit right away, you never know when it may strike the chord. No pun intended.
Also, that's happening a lot on TikTok now. Yeah. So two examples of that are Ghost from playing pretty big, playing thousands of arenas.
Yeah.
It's selling out in massive arenas because they had a song on TikTok going completely viral, crazy. It was like the label didn't do anything with it. Like Tobias, the main guy from Ghost, didn't know what happened. It was his daughter said, "You're all over TikTok." Them up,
he probably has no idea.
And it also had Lorna Shore again on TikTok. That's a viral thing, and they all of a sudden went from they're a really heavy band, and the House Blueses of the world. They're playing like 8,000 seat arenas all over the world because they went viral. So yeah, you just never know.
Yeah, the first time I actually heard Lorna Shore, like my daughter, she listens to a lot. I'm not really a deathcore guy, so my daughter she listens to a lot of that, like Slaughter to Prevail and Lorna Shore and stuff like that. Whitechapel. Of course, I listen to Whitechapel. I'm not originally from here, but I mean they're a Tennessee band, so I do listen to them. But so my daughter listens to a lot more deathcore than I do. So she introduced me to them, and she may have actually first heard of them because of TikTok too. So I'm not 100% sure, but I remember her having me listen to some of that. I was like, that's impressive what he can do with his voice. It's like 100%. I told her, I said, it's not really my taste, to be completely honest with you. I may be a little old for that. I don't know what it is, but it's just like that. But it's super impressive what he can do, what Alex Terrible can do, and stuff like that.
So another guy, it's a Brandon Sacrifice's singer. I can't remember his name, but he's the same way. He kind of
there's a lot of it. Phil from Whitechapel. Whitechapel.
It's just crazy how they
insanely heavy, and he's done all sorts of stuff I never knew he could even do.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I was impressed by that.
We talk about these. I always refer back to Avatar. The first time I seen them live. I mean, when I hear the radio, I'm just like, or on Spotify or wherever, I'm just like, oh man, these guys are good, man. Those two singers really work well together. And then you get there, you're like, no way, Johannes is doing all this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there was like one song where he changes his pitch like 3 times within the song. I'm like, how the hell does he do?
I love Avatar.
I thought they were just using vocal lyrics in some of their stuff.
And I see them live, and I'm like, oh shit, this dude doing all this stuff live. So. But I know we're short. I know we don't have a lot of time.
We need a little bit extra time. I got nothing.
Okay, I appreciate that. So the one thing I did want to mention is because festivals are a big thing now. So I just kind of wonder, anybody ever approached you about doing a Metal Blade festival?
Oh yeah,
I kind of figured that.
Yeah, we got fairly close to doing one because I've been doing this a long time, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of checking off all the boxes of
stuff.
Bucket list stuff. Yeah.
It's like, okay, haven't done that yet. And we haven't done a full Metal Blade Festival. We did have entire stage on Mayhem one year. We had like the whole stage was all Metal Blade. So that was fun. So it was kind of festival.
Yeah.
We talked about it. We got really close to doing one. I live in Las Vegas now, so there's a brand new arena in Henderson, which is the suburb of Las Vegas.
Mhm.
There's this brand new, beautiful 5,000 seat arena. And we talked to them about doing a Metal Blade festival there. So we got really close. Number one, they're a gigantic pain in the ass. To do.
Yeah.
So we have to find somebody that knows how to run those sort of things, to like run it properly, and then trying to line up all the band's schedules and stuff. We almost did one in Key West at one point too, so it's still on the docket. At some point, I'd like to do one somewhere, but it's all the planets have to align.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Well, hopefully
Absolutely.
that's something you can eventually knock off your list. That'd be cool. I mean, I may even take a road trip to see something like that. But,
Yeah, we'll have to make it good enough that people will come in from
exactly.
So.
I think when you talk about those things, we I've been to several festivals, of course, some disastrous and some but I think like some of the like from this experience, I think DWP is probably the only ones that really have an idea of how
They're
to
the
run.
only ones doing it now, yeah. And I love Danny. He's a really great guy, Danny Wimmer, who runs the festivals. I just saw him actually. It was a big charity wine event in LA, and he was there, and I thanked him because so this is the first year that he's bringing a lot of heavier bands. Like a lot of times our bands weren't really on there, but now I think he's got one of the days where there's like 8 Metal Blade bands.
Oh yeah.
One of the days. So I thanked him. I said, "Thank you for bringing in the heavy bands."
Yeah.
So, he's just trying to branch his brand out. It's smart because all of those bands are going to bring in probably a couple thousand people who wouldn't normally go to one of those.
Right,
So it
yeah.
makes sense.
I did notice this year, like, because we're both going to Louder Live, of course, see Slayer, but like I noticed, like every like main stage or like the main stage people are all kind of in the same genre now for like the main stage. Of course, everything underneath is kind of sporadic, but
They did a good job of aligning everything.
So if you don't want to go Sunday and see
Exactly.
Maybe the Route, and all the kind of bands like that, then you don't have to go. If you want to go see Slayer and
Exactly.
Megadeth and
Yeah, the one coming up, Sonic Temple. I think it's like the heaviest day in America or something.
That's how they're billing it. Yeah.
When we seen that lineup, we were talking about, dude, I don't think I've ever seen a lineup this strong.
Not in the U.S.
No, it was crazy.
Yeah.
I wished I could have went to that one, but of course, things didn't line up money wise.
Same here. I might go, but my schedule is terrible with like when that festival is like,
Right.
can't they consult me on this?
Yeah. Use my band.
Yeah. It's like that meme floating around on the internet. If a band announces a tour and it doesn't come to your city, they hate you personally.
We always try to tell people, bands and the labels, we have no say in where these bands go. It's all their
Exactly. I mean, that's their money. When they're doing those things, that's kind of where they're making their money. So, well, some places, in some cases, I guess, but yeah. So another thing, I guess, since you got a little time, is what is like some of the newer bands you guys have on the label?
There's a bunch of stuff. I actually just in the studio yesterday, a local band called Entheos. Friggin' mega social media. Thousands of followers.
We're talking to her tomorrow at 1.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, she's great. I heard a couple of their new songs are really, really good.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for that band. We have this band 200 Stab Wounds that's blowing up. They're out right now. And those guys, they're younger guys, and they remind me so much of like the early 80s bands. They're just adorable. We don't care if we're sleeping on the floors. Like Metalheads and Slayer and Anthrax, all those bands started out. Same thing, they're touring at people's floors. They didn't care. These guys love to go to Europe. US bands never liked to tour.
Right.
So they're really great dudes, and they're really kind of blowing up. So we're really excited for them. Allegiant just got it out of their record. They've been around for a while, kind of on the cusp of getting to that next level.
Right.
So far, the reaction's been really great for that record. There's another band called. We always have these bands. Weird names.
Well, I was just about to mention 200 Stab Wounds. They love to go out on tour Sanguisugabog a lot.
Yeah, exactly. It's been Jotun, it's IOTUNN. They put out something new that's really cool. So there's a lot of. I'm really happy right now, just in the whole metal scene. There's all these young bands coming up that are really kind of forging ahead quickly, Frozen Soul and Beyond, and so many of these great bands. I could never sang with them. They're really great.
It took me a while to learn how Sanguis.
that same Minnesota.
Yes,
And
he has
to pronounce it. I can never
There's
pronounce
so
it.
many of these new, heavy bands coming up. I think everything is in really good shape. And
I think so too. Like we were talking about that a few years back. Of like, everybody was asking the questions to like Arch Enemy and people like that. Well, who's going to be the next bands that'll come up and
who's going to carry the flag forward? Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many bands out there that could move. I mean, there's like you said, they're right on that cusp. They could move into that so quickly.
Well, so for example, like I grew up in Los Angeles, right? So the LA Forum was a place I saw hundreds of concerts,
right?
All the big bands, Maiden, everybody. Sugar and Cannibal Corpse just played there a couple nights ago, and it was packed.
I was about to say that probably blew the roof off of that
That's the second time Cannibal Corpse played the LA Forum. Like Amon Amarth's headlining, big arenas. They sold out the Honda Center in Anaheim, and the one in Quebec, and the one in Florida.
Videotron Center up there in Quebec.
Yeah. And it's like they're and same thing in Europe, like all these big venues. Killswitch is on the road down. They're playing like 5, 6, 7,000 seaters with great packages. So I think the whole metal world is in great shape, and those people are always going to be these arenas. Well, they're already starting to Killswitch is there. Sugar now is kind of on that level. So it's really great.
Well, and the good thing is too, and we've actually kind of noticed this with the podcast. This is our 5th year doing this, and one of the things we've noticed is finally, of course, you've probably had a little more insight to this than we have, obviously, with the longevity that you've had, but and the connections you have, of course. But one thing that we've seemed to have noticed, especially since we started doing the show, because we've had to dig in and do a lot more research, because we were just casual fans before this whole thing started, just like everybody else. But you've probably noticed it probably before we have, but finally the rest of the world is starting to bleed over into the United States as far as exposure. There's a lot of the bands that we are quote unquote discovering. We're not discovering anybody. Everybody that comes on the show, they've been around for a little while, even if it's bands that are just releasing their first EP, their first LP, whatever it is, or their first just single. We had a band from Finland who we interviewed on just one song. They put out a single, we reached out, and we had like a 2-hour conversation with them about one song. But it was a great talk, and they've actually been on again since then. But one thing we've noticed is that with bands that are new to us, that's kind of where I was going with that. A lot of them have been from Europe. And while it's a good thing that we're finally getting to hear them, Onslaught, same thing. Onslaught, the whole thing. When we came across Onslaught was in 2020 when their album came out. We were like, who's this band? We looked it up. They've been around since '85.
Yeah, I know.
So that was kind of the whole impetus for getting this whole thing together. So having done this so long, a lot of the bands that are new to us are from Europe, or we've had our first Indian act from India. We've had our first South American act. We've had
they're everywhere.
We've had a band on from Australia, and they are everywhere. And we say it that we're of the opinion that heavy metal is probably the most globally present musical genre out there. It's just unfortunately for some reason it just never convened in this country on a mass scale, and it seems to finally be starting.
Yeah, we just signed a Mongolian band. That band, the Hobbit Fire Maiden. Their brother band, same manager and everything. It's called Nine Treasures. They're a little heavier.
Okay.
And they sing only in Mongolian. Nice. They're massive in China.
Yeah,
play these huge festivals.
Which is kind of ironic. Mongolian China.
Right. But we just signed them. It's like, for the rest of the world, obviously. It's a really cool thing where they're making this great music, super heavy.
Yeah.
I found them on TikTok.
Oh, see, there you go. And I like the fact that because Rammstein's been around forever. They sing predominantly in German. Of course, they did a English version of America and all that stuff, and then they branch out into some other stuff. But everyone knows that Rammstein's predominantly in German, so it's cool that the Who is singing in Mongolian, because the Alien Weaponry, that band out in New Zealand, they're keeping that they're from New Zealand, so they incorporate they incorporate probably, what is it, 50-50 probably. But their whole thing, part of their whole thing is they're keeping that Maori language alive. They're incorporating their culture. I think that is a badass thing, no matter who's doing it or where they're from. I love that.
There's another band. I don't know if you ever heard of Shepherd Dream. They're kind of like yeah. So they're kind of like
Where are they from?
I think they're from Samoa or somewhere like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they do a lot of the
Oaxacas and stuff. Yeah.
But then they'll say sing in English a lot of times, but then sometimes they do sing in their language too.
I like that.
Music is so universal that you don't really have to, as long as the lyrics are melodic, even if it's in some other language.
Sure, yeah.
Look, I'm a big death metal fan. I've heard a lot of death metal bands. You can't understand what they're
saying.
Right.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole thing. Yeah, that's the whole thing.
And that's another, like we talk about the Null Positives, another band in Germany that I don't think they've ever done a song in English, but I just love, like, I wish I could speak German and know what she was saying, but I mean, her voice is just so, her voice is just so good.
But like you just said, I mean, though, if you compose everything right and like everything comes together and it's a cohesive song that people can just latch onto, you don't necessarily have to know. I know exactly what she's saying the whole time. It's like, because I mean, music, it just, when it hits you, it hits you. So I mean,
100%.
You know it right away. So.
Well, Brad, we appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, man. We greatly
appreciate that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's an honor. Trust me.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, thanks for all the support. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I mean, well, we keep supporting you because I got all kind of kill switch stuff.
That's right.
I just seen them earlier a month ago, I think. So.
I just saw them in Vegas a week and a half ago.
Frozen Soul open too.
Frozen Soul.
So, well, so I don't know anything about that concert. I don't think anybody else noticed it. But I was telling my wife on the way home, I said, every opener that they had was from Texas.
Yep.
It's like, hey, we got 3 guys from Texas that want to join us. It's like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, Texas scene's really blowed up. Like it is. Like
Oklahoma with Peeling Flesh from Oklahoma. They're amazing too.
Yeah. That's why I say, like, a lot of people think Tennessee is country music. There's a lot of metal bands.
They really are.
Whitechapel. It's like Whitechapel. You got 10 Years. I mean, you got several.
I've noticed the more I come to Nashville, the more rockier it gets.
Mm-hmm.
This time I've been here a couple of days, and I don't think I've heard country in any. I've been staying downtown, no bars or restaurants.
Oh, really?
Right. Wow.
Not that I just like country that much, but it's
but it is.
Overload country music. I think that's why they use the city instead
of
associated with country all the time when there's like plenty of other stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all WSM anymore.
All right, Brian, I don't want to keep it. I know y'all got other stuff to do for this weekend, and
it's crazy. Well, tomorrow's the worst day.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. Because like I said, we wouldn't have this interview if we didn't. So
no problem.
Yes,
thanks, man. We probably not.
I'm not going to be able to make it tonight. I went to the Rockin' Fest last night. That was over at the Cowan, and I'm still trying to wake